All right. So now I figured out how to record videos. I just need to figure out how to pause them because I still haven't learned how to edit, and that's let's be real. I'm at work on a Sunday. It's not going to happen. So, oh yes, I found it. Okay. Ah. Okay. Um, I decided I would try to make this thing a weekly thing. Obviously, it's not going to happen weekly this year while I'm working. As you can see, I am a doctor. You probably knew that about me already. Shout out early in the piece because I'm pretty sure that Buzz only watches the first minute of my videos. Look, I straightened my hair for you, Barry. The only person that didn't like my hair curly. Hashtag putting it out there. This is the doctor's room where I work, which I won't identify for obvious reasons. And I've had a look around and I'm pretty sure there's nothing identifying in the background there. I thought that this video I might talk about why I am the medical slacker and also maybe a little bit about the stuff that we do that maybe people who aren't medical don't get. So I'm really lucky. I started at 1 o'clock today, which means that I finish at 11 o'clock. That's only 10 hours. But the average person, the average doctor who works in a public hospital in a metropolitan or large regional centre on a weekend works between 8 a.m. and 11 p.m., which is what, 15, 16 hours? And that's always in addition to their Monday to Friday job, which theoretically is 8 to 4:30 or 8:30 to 5, but never ever finishes on time. Or if it does, you're lucky. You've got a lucky term. It's not a standardized thing. And you don't have your half an hour lunch break. This is part of the reason why I'm taking next year off, because a bit about me. I'm PGY 7. That means postgraduate year 7. That means I've been a doctor for 7 years. Before that, I did postgraduate medicine for 4 years. Before that, I worked in the corporate world for about a year doing faffy recruitment, headhunting type stuff. And before that, I spent 5 years at uni doing liberal studies with a major in psychology, which I eventually did honours in, and a major in French, in particular French linguistics, which is entertaining because watching me speak to French speaking patients in the hospital is it's like I don't know any French at all, really. Um, and in terms of my work history, I could say easily I started working after I finished the HSC. So when I was about 17, I worked in Singapore. I lasted 1 day in a sari shop because misogyny is next level in Indian shops in Little India in Singapore. Plus, they thought I was stupid. So I lasted 1 day there, and then I got a job being a barista with a cool bunch of people in a cafe in Singapore, the Polytechnic, which was kind of cute because my dad used to come visit me because he still worked in Singapore at the time. That's why I grew up in Singapore, in case you didn't know. And then I started uni, and mid-year of my undergrad, I got a job at the cinemas on George Street. And that was an easy ass job, but it was a huge learning curve because it's when I realized that, in fact, you don't need to be good at anything to get ahead. You have to know the right people, you have to have been there for a certain amount of time, and you have to suck up to the right people. So it's the first time that I found myself realizing, and I know I keep touching my hair, this is what YouTube people do, it's because it's weird to look at yourself, right? Um, but that's when I realized that, in fact, what we have been taught about hard work and getting ahead, and in fact, sometimes if you're too smart, it makes people dislike you. And so they find reasons to dislike you. And one of my reasons was, even though I got the job done, I talk too much, so I mustn't be working hard enough. That's a theme that's run through my entire life. People are always surprised that intelligent people can talk too much because, empty vessels and the most noise, right? There you go. Anyway, I stuck it out there for 3.5 years before I got in trouble for some minor infraction, decided that fuck this shit. I was, at this stage, I was working one shift a week and barely making any money. I was on, I forgot what it was called, version of Oz Study. And then after that, I did a bunch of random jobs. I think this is before I finished honours, so I did a couple of months, maybe 6 months, just over that at Citibank debt collection. I'm not a great debt collector. And then after that, I finished my honours and I started my full-time job, and I was a headhunter, and then I moved to Allianz and I was a workers' compensation officer. And having done honours in psychology, I actually stumbled into medicine. You know how people always want to do medicine? That was never me. My mum asked me in year 12 to apply to medicine because I am Sri Lankan, that's what we should do. And I said, fuck no, blood is scary as. And the funniest out of all of it really is that I entered into medicine because I didn't want to do a PhD in order to get qualified as a psychologist. And I thought coursework would be easier, and I thought at the end of it I could prescribe medications and be a psychiatrist, which is hilarious because psych patients are, if you've seen me at work, you understand that I have very low tolerance for a lot of crap, and unfortunately, which is much of a muchness. We all have different areas of specialty. That's why we choose them. I make fun of O&G, but far out, I couldn't do women's medicine. I can't deal with pregnant women, so I am grateful for them. And surgeons standing around for hours stitching tiny little things. Who can do that? Not me. So I make fun of these other people, but we need them. And now I've lost my train of thought in this ramble. Oh, that's right, how I got into medicine. So then I did my 4-year medical degree in Sydney. I don't know if you've noticed, I'm Australian. And that's when I realised that medicine is really amazing. It was really interesting. And basically, that's where the medical slacker comes from. Because I thought during medical school, my dad thought it was hilarious. I studied for hours on end. And my dad would pick me up at the library and he would just be like, that's freaking hilarious. We've been trying to make you study our whole lives and you just randomly chose medicine, applied, got in, and are now studying random hours. And, I'd moved out of home when I was 18 or 19, something like that. And so they used to constantly call me and tell me to stop drinking and start studying. So they thought it was hilarious. I was already doing that on my own without them saying anything. And all the way through, so intern year was hard because it's always hard to studying what you're doing and actually putting it into practice. Being a resident was hard because then you were vying for jobs and wondering if this is all it was, because you realize interns are glorified secretaries, and that carries on. Like 7 years later, I get to boss interns around, but really I'm the secretary to the boss, And throughout it all, I've always said medicine is the best thing that ever happened to me. I personally chose physician training. I did my written exam, which I passed, did my clinical exam, which I failed, and I found out when I was in Dubbo, which is regional placement outside New South Wales, outside of Sydney, sorry, in New South Wales. And I, like, what do you mean? What do you mean? How could I fucking fail? What the... But, I met some great people in Dubbo, including Vanessa. Hello, Vanessa. She's gone back to Dubbo actually just last week after spending this year in Liverpool. And I've enjoyed having her around in Sydney. I made some great friends in Dubbo, and then I went on to Alice Springs. And of course, when you're at your absolute worst, after you fail the clinical exam that everybody else in your hospital has passed, you want to go to another faraway regional place where people go to escape. Alice Springs. And even then, I remember, I'd do my run, and you'd have to get up really fucking early to run because it's so hot in the November to January period in Alice Springs. And I used to think to myself, no matter how miserable life is, medicine is the best thing that ever happened to me. Look at me, I'm here in Alice Springs, I'm running past some, I forgot what the mountain's called, it's a big mountain. And last year was my first year of, so I resat that clinical exam and I passed it, and the bitterness just dropped away, and I was amazed at how easily, like a whole year's worth of bitterness about failing this exam just fell away, And I had dinner and I cried, and Jess thought it was funny. And then I started my first year of advanced training in respiratory medicine. So that's the goal. That's what I'd like to be at the end of all of this last year. And it was a struggle because, everyone makes you think that BPT, basic physician training, is the worst that it'll get. But then it just gets harder. And this year I've moved to a smaller hospital with a very, very overstretched staff. And I've realized that for the first time in my life, there are times when I think that I don't love medicine and medicine has taken my life away from me, and what I'm giving to medicine is more than it's giving to me. So that's why I decided to take next year off. And I know part of the whole point of this blog is to keep you entertained. I have so many ideas for what to do next year. Everyone thinks it's just about travel, but it's not really about that. It's about I'm 34 and I want to feel like I've accomplished more with my life. I don't have a partner. I don't own a home, although probably if I hadn't taken next year off, I could have. But Sydney house prices, am I right? And I have traveled quite a lot, but I think next year, it's just going to be it's going to be one of those eat, pray, love things without being so fucking cliched. You know what I mean? And I have a few ideas. Of things that I want to do. I'm actually wondering about, I don't know, trying a bit of stand-up comedy. Yes, I know. I think I'm hilarious. Nobody else does. I tell jokes at work and I'm like, fucking laugh, bitch. I'm laughing. And they're just like, when are you going to wake up and be someone's dad? I don't know. But you know what? Someone's dad is hilarious. Just like me. Okay? Yeah, so that was a bit of a serious blog, I guess. But I just thought I wanted to mention a few things about why this is called That Medical Slacker. And in fact, when I actually originally created this thing, when I was drunk and saying all kinds of inappropriate things, and you should be so lucky that I don't know how to edit, because that video was long and rambly and I couldn't cut out the inappropriate shit. So I just filmed a new one when I was sober, which was a smart move, I think. At that time I called it That Failed Medic. But you know what? I haven't failed. I'm taking one fucking year off before my last year of advanced training. And in that time, I'm going to try and do a lot of stuff. I'm trying to get back into my running, which I used to do 2 or 3 times a week with a half marathon. Maybe I'll get to a marathon, but to be honest, things have been a bit hard lately, so I don't know if I'll get to a full marathon, but that's one of my possible goals. Obviously, regular yoga, I've already talked about that. Maybe trying a bit of stand-up comedy. I'm going to have to fund this enterprise somehow, and locum work, I guess, will have to be the way, but that means working, and that's not really what next year is about, so I'm going to have to, I know that some people feel differently. They're all like, you should save all your money so you can work less next year. But what I feel is I have an income this year, so I'm going to save, but I'm also going to buy all the shit that I won't be able to buy next year because I'm going to be tight ass, because I stay in a really nice flat and I don't want to move. I love it. It's really beautiful flat. It's ideally located right near the water, which makes it easy for me to run, and zen for me to walk. Just by the by, if you live in, the inner Sydney area and you need somewhere to live next year, my flatmate's moving. That bitch, who I like very much and whose clothes rack still needs replacing. Hit me up. So there you go. There's a serious one. Bit of a ramble. Worth sticking around? I think so. And just because I know you just, you're probably hanging out to hear, I did do Yoga Burpee Day today. And today he made us try some. I really like this guy. He's gone next week, which is very disappointing to me because he creates ways to make things more. He views us learning poses as a challenge for him, not just for us. So he finds ways every week. He keeps talking about the tripod headstand. I can do it now in the 2 different ways that he's taught us. I can't do it unaided, but I just really like that he looks up ways to make it easy for us to do those things. Anyway, so not as funny as the other one, not as well lit. The location is a little bit shit. I don't want to show you too much because I don't want to identify where I work. People have made fun of me and the public hospital system and medical people in general because we still use faxes. I mean, we still also use stethoscopes, but you know what else we use? We use pages. And I know that this doesn't identify where I work because I've worked at multiple hospitals which have had the same pager. It's from the fucking 1980s. Like, 7 years with this thing, I get fucking panic attacks. All right, well, I still haven't learned to edit, so you've gotten this all as one whole ramble, which to be honest is probably how I'm going to do it. This is going to be low tech the whole way through because it's not about becoming YouTube famous or anything like that. It's about trying to think about what I've done and what I'm going to do and talking to you all about it and hopefully being interesting and hopefully including your suggestions. Also, in the whole like straightening my hair for Barry, he made a few suggestions that were bullshit. Like I should do a video when I've got period pain because why, Barry? Why? But, you know, if you had some suggestions, make them because, you know, until I actually start doing stuff, really, I'm just working and planning and, you know, I want to get into the rhythm of doing this once a week on the weekend. So let's make it happen, hey? Keep watching, please.